85 degrees, no wind, and we had hay to bale. No wonder he had retired to the cool expanse of the living room and his recliner. At least that is where I could see him in my mind's eye, breathing deeply, an occasional raspy breath disturbing his slumber. The thought of it angered me, and I stumped back to the barn in search of the ball for the pickup truck so I could hook up the hay baler and be on my way. My search intensified, and I sought to redirect my thoughts. My frustration roiled up, spilled over, and evaporated in the noonday heat, then frothed again as I thought of Dad asleep in his chair. Finding the 1 7/8 ball, I stomped across to the pickup, attached the ball, and attempted to position the truck. Each time the truck rolled back, the baler ducked out of sight behind the end gate. I climbed from the cab, cursing my luck under sweated breath. "Where the devil is he every time I need him?" I said aloud, and started for the house, then stopped, as I seemingly responded to my own question and returned to the truck. I squinted my eyes harder, like I was Superman, and this would enable me to see through the double steel of the end gate. Dang it! We have hay to bale! I started for the farmhouse, ready to charge up the front steps, 2 or 3 at a time, and then I'd catch him, guilty, red-handed, sneaking a nap while punched in on the farm time clock. Oh, I believe myself to have so much control, even over time itself. You can do it yourself. I halted, one work boot encased foot settled into driveway gravel and pushing off, the other bent at the arch like a runner set to come out of the blocks. An inner voice with the power to freeze me in my tracks and turn me around had spoken. It was though I was suddenly scripted as one of the animated characters in Dad's Outdoor Life magazine, with dots and a circle containing my thoughts above my own head. The truck stalled, as though it too was giving up. I climbed back in and turned the key, burying the gas pedal in the vinyl mat, punishing the engine, visualizing the recliner vibrating with a painful roar. I popped the clutch. The truck lurched back with a startled gasp. Let him bale his own darn hay. Once again I headed for the house, and once again stopped as the inner voice spoke. You can do it yourself. Sternly determined, I climbed back in the truck and seesawed the baler into possession, then heaved at a precise moment that occurs in farm work and trapeze work alike. Kerchunk. The baler coupling swallowed the pickup ball akin to the ease of a toddler forcing lima beans. Satisfied, I stalked to the house, anger dissipating with each stride. Sure enough, there were his tanless legs supported in the recliner, the wainscoted chimney hiding the rest of him from my sight. Dad! I decided to reserve my leftover anger for another time. What's the matter? Aren't you My tongue sucked into my throat. A freight train of thoughts rolled instantaneously through my mind. He's too big. You can't do it alone. Why didn't he watch his weight more closely? I've seen dead animals on the farm, never a person, never my father. I didn't touch him. I could sense the lack of a pulse. Death needed no formal introduction. Run! My thoughts jolted one another, then spit out in unchallenged logic. Run for help! I was down the steps. Run for the barn! Oh, God, please help! David! He appeared with shovel in hand, obviously irritated by my requisitioning tone. Dad's had a heart attack. Get Margot. For once, Dave said nothing in return. He just moved extremely fast for Dave, for anybody. Diving under the stainless milk line, I clung to the barn phone. Oh, my God. I was utilizing the green emergency sticker Dad had peeled and pasted 2 nights before. Propelled by the assurance of knowing that someone knew about Dad besides me, I ran back to the house like a runner with clay feet in a dream leaning towards the finish line. There stood Bubba, poor Bubba, youngest of 6, with no father, supposed to be leaving for Europe this afternoon. Oh, no. Dad was to take him to the airport. He was in tears, towel wrapped around him, hair wet, a full serving of shave cream still not removed from the left side of his heavy but tender beard. He was touching Dad. Bob, Dad's had a heart attack. I can't find a pulse. His voice trailed. I know. My replies no longer mattered. Leave false teeth in. It gives you a base to seal your mouth to. Dave's wife, Margot, a registered nurse, maneuvered, echoing my instruction. Her lips pursed his, counting and pumping, wiping the regurgitation from their mouths. I counted and pumped. "We're not getting air," Margot gasped. "It's not getting through." Maybe he choked. Something could be lodged. How often we had watched Dad hoist a newborn calf to clear its lungs, and now we hoisted heavy and cumbersome Dad, hoping for an encouraging sign, thumping his back and lungs with urgent respect. Sirens boiled up the drive, and a flurry of people spewed from porch to kitchen, dragging machinery, IV needles cloaked in cellophane and pinched between their teeth. "Stand clear!" No television series could make that command a cliché in real life. I stood back, clasped my hands level with my forehead, and prayed to some distant, unknown God, feeling like a child dressed in adult work clothes, an adult I didn't even know. Dad humped and grunted, an old tractor refusing to fire. On July 27, 1983, just 2.5 weeks after being stung repeatedly by a swarm of his honeybees, Raymond Carl Raetz died of a heart attack. Raymond maintained a consistent but uninspired work ethic that occasionally launched his day as late as 9 o'clock in the morning, and after a couple of naps and numerous cups of coffee, often extended into the early morning of the next day. He claimed to have gone 14 years without missing a morning or evening milking, a record that, as of this writing, like DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak, still stands. Dad always took time to talk much and listen little, and his black and white opinions of the world still provoke responses in his children. Each of Ray's sons received a newborn black and white heifer calf for their 8th birthday, while his daughters got something from J.C. Penney's. Sons, daughters, nephews, and nieces were privileged to the life that flowed from his hands, as nearly every day someone was coaxed to close their eyes and hold out their hands to a surprise held in Dad or Uncle Ray's hands. Children would squeeze their eyes tight, make certain not to peek, muscles tensed, ready to spring as a newly hatched fuzzy chick, a prickly praying mantis, or some other curiosity of nature was deposited into their hands. That is why he is still missed. We learned to trust through his hands. 20 years have passed since that sultry July day. I opened my eyes after praying, and as with any prayer, ground is broken in me, busting up a tough sod that has grown thick with disappointment and loss over the years. I am praying with a man named Stan, who is acquainted with my story, because he is grieving the recent loss of his own father, Stan Sr., and grieving for his mother, Helen, who, like my widowed mother, lived all alone in a his and her home where two once laughed and cried. Somehow Helen and Stan Sr. survived 60-plus years of marriage. Even after Stan Sr. died, Helen was still setting the table for two. The prayer that Stan Sr. prayed for his wife, both spoken and unspoken, was my father's prayer as well. A good habit, hard to break.